2:17 in the morning, got out of bed, opened the front door, and they never came back.
Two years ago, in the quiet town of Maybrook, Pennsylvania, something unexplainable happened. At exactly 2:17 in the morning, 17 children from the same second-grade classroom woke from their beds, walked out of their homes with arms stretched forward, and disappeared into the night. The only child who did not leave was Alex Lilly. Hours later, their teacher, Justine, arrived at school to begin the day. She opened the classroom door to find only Alex waiting at his desk. The other students were gone without a trace. Police immediately launched an investigation. Security footage showed the children leaving their houses at the exact same time, moving in the same strange way, before vanishing. No signs of strangers, kidnappers, or suspicious vehicles were ever found. Both Alex and Justine were questioned, but neither could explain what had happened. For the next month, the school remained closed as the community searched for answers. When the building finally reopened, the parents demanded accountability. At a town meeting, tensions boiled over. Many accused Justine of being responsible for the disappearances, convinced she had said or done something to make the children leave. She pleaded her innocence, insisting she loved her students, but her words were drowned out by anger. Principal Marcus tried to calm the crowd, but even he was accused of covering for her. Justine had to be escorted out for her safety. After the meeting, Justine's life quickly unraveled. She turned to alcohol to numb the stress, buying bottles late at night. One evening, her phone rang from an unknown number. A distorted voice warned her to watch her back. Moments later, loud knocks shook her door, but when she opened it, no one was there. The only sign left behind was a spray-painted word on her car, witch. The next morning, she tried scrubbing the word away, but the paint wouldn't come off. Forced to drive through town with the insult visible, she became a public target. At school, Marcus placed her on leave and urged her to seek help, forbidding her from contacting Alex. He reminded her of past instances where she blurred professional boundaries, like hugging children or driving a student home. Distraught, Justine broke down in her car before filing a police report about the threats. At the station, she briefly crossed paths with Paul, her ex-boyfriend who now worked as an officer. That night, she ran into him again at a bar. They talked about her struggles, and Paul revealed his marriage was ended. One drink turned into another, and they went home together. The next day, Justine drove Paul back, voicing frustration that the police were not doing enough to find the children. Later, she lingered near the school buses and followed Alex home. She saw his house sealed with newspaper on the windows. Through a small gap, she glimpsed his parents sitting rigid and motionless on the couch. Alarmed, she called Marcus, but he scolded her for spying on Alex. Not long after, Paul's wife, Donna, confronted Justine in public. Furious over the affair, Donna humiliated her by dumping alcohol over her in a grocery store before being pulled away by staff. That night, Justine's nightmares began. In one dream, she walked into her classroom and saw all her students slumped over their desks. Alex lifted his head, his face painted like a clown, smiling eerily. She woke in terror to see a red-haired woman crawling across her ceiling before vanishing into the dark. The next day, she tried once more to check on Alex. He told her he was fine and demanded she leave him alone. As she lingered outside his house, she eventually fell asleep in her car. When she awoke, she had no idea someone had entered the vehicle and quietly cut a lock of her hair before leaving. But her troubles were not hers alone. The story shifts to Archer Grad, one of the parents whose son, Matthew, vanished that night. Since the disappearance, Archer had been consumed by grief. He replayed the Ring camera footage of Matthew leaving the house over and over, studying his son's strange posture as he walked into the dark. At work, he made mistakes and lost focus, unable to move on. At home, he slept in Matthew's room, desperate to feel close to him again. His obsession grew into anger. At the school meeting, he had been one of the loudest voices accusing Justine. Later, it was revealed that Archer had been the one who spray-painted witch on her car. One night, Archer dreamed of Matthew again. He followed his son through the woods, only to end up back in his home. In the sky above the house, a massive weapon appeared with the number 217 carved in. When he returned to the bedroom, he saw Matthew asleep in bed. Crying, he apologized apologized for not being a better father. But when the boy looked up, his face twisted into the same red-haired woman from Justine's nightmares. Archer woke screaming. The next morning, Archer began searching for patterns. He took out a map and drew a line in the direction Matthew had run. Then he visited other families of missing children. One father refused to help, but another allowed him to see their footage. The child's path matched Matthew's, both running in straight, determined lines. Archer marked each direction, creating a set of paths that all seemed to converge on one place. His search was interrupted when he ran into Justine at a gas station. Their tense confrontation was cut short when Principal Marcus suddenly appeared, his face bloody, his arms stretched forward like the children. He charged straight at Justine, tackling her to the ground and trying to choke her. Archer pulled Marcus off, but the principal turned on him with the same unnatural strength. Justine fled into the store while Marcus thrashed wild, possessed by something Archer couldn't explain. The timeline then shifts back to Officer Paul Morgan. While on patrol, Paul spotted James, a local addict known for stealing. He caught James trying to break into a house and chased him down. During the search, Paul accidentally pricked his finger on a dirty needle hidden in James' pocket. Enraged, Paul struck him and dragged him to the car. The dashcam recorded everything. Fearing the assault could cost him his career, Paul released James and ordered him to leave town. Later, Paul met Justine at the bar. Their brief connection led to a night together, but his wife Donna discovered the affair the next morning. Suspicion and resentment grew, further unraveling Paul's already unstable life. Meanwhile, James continued living in the woods, feeding his addiction by breaking into cars and selling stolen goods. One day, he noticed Alex's house looked abandoned. The windows were sealed with newspaper and mail piled on the porch. Assuming no one was home, James climbed in through a window. Inside, he found Alex's parents sitting stiffly on the couch, their faces scarred and motionless. When he crept into the basement, he froze in terror. Standing silently in the dark were all 17 missing children. At the same moment, Alex's parents rose from the couch and began to move toward him. James bolted from the house, barricading the door behind him. Later, at a pawn shop, he noticed a reward poster offering $50,000 for information on the children. Tempted, he called the police, claiming he knew where they were. He was told to come in for questioning. But before he reached the station, Paul saw him outside and gave chase. James fled into the woods. There, he encountered the same red-haired woman seen in Justine and Archer's visions. Terrified, he ran to his tent, but Paul found him. In desperation, James screamed that he knew where the missing kids were. His words stopped Paul in his tracks. Paul forced James into his cruiser and drove to the Lilly residence. He left James locked in the back seat while he entered the house. Hours passed. When Paul finally emerged, his eyes were blank and his movement strange. Without speaking, he dragged James inside. Neither of them were seen again for days. The story then shifts to Principal Marcus again. After Justine reported her concerns about Alex's parents, Marcus arranged a meeting. Instead of the Lillys, a pale, red-haired woman arrived. She introduced herself as Alex's aunt, Glattis, claiming his parents were too sick to attend. Marcus explained that unless he spoke directly with the guardians, he would have to call child services. Glattis did not take this well. The next day, she appeared uninvited at Marcus's home. She asked for water, but demanded it be poured into a bowl. While she spoke calmly, she pulled a ribbon from Marcus's office and wrapped it around a branch smeared with her own blood. When Marcus's friend approached, she cut off a lock of his hair and tied it to the branch. Marcus tried to call the police, but Glattis rang a small bell. His body went stiff, then convulsed. Moments later, he turned on his friend, vomiting black liquid and violently attacking him until he was dead. Glattis then tied Justine's hair, stolen days earlier, to the branch and broke it. From that moment, Marcus was bound to a single purpose: to hunt Justine. At the gas station, his attack on her and Archer ended only when Marcus stumbled into the road and was struck by a passing car. His skull was crushed on impact. At the hospital afterward, Archer told police what he had seen. Outside, Justine approached him to thank him for saving her. For the first time, Archer no longer believed she was guilty. He showed her the map he had been working on. All the children's paths led to the same place: Alex Lilly's house. The truth was beginning to surface. The story shifts back in time, before the night of the disappearances. Alex Lilly was a quiet, lonely boy, often bullied at school. His parents were kind and supportive, but one evening they told him that his mother's sister, Aunt Glattis, would be moving in because she was sick and had nowhere else to go. She arrived late that night, frail and pale, carrying a small tree with twisted branches and a bright red wig. The next day, Alex peeked into her room and saw her watching. The wig rested on a stand beside the strange tree. Startled, Alex shut the door quick. At school, he continued to endure bullying from his classmates. His teacher, Justine, noticed his withdrawn behavior and tried to reach out, but Alex insisted he was fine. That afternoon, Alex waited at school for his father, but nobody came. He walked home and found his parents seated at the table, expressionless and rigid. Glattis greeted him warmly, assuring him that his parents were only resting. When Alex threw water in his father's face to test it, the man barely reacted. Glattis scolded him and sent him to bed without dinner. The next morning, she made Alex promise never to tell anyone about her presence. To prove what would happen if he disobeyed, she broke one of her branches over a bowl of water. Immediately, his parents picked up forks and stabbed their own faces until she dropped the branch into the bowl, ending the trance. She warned Alex that if he revealed the truth, far worse would happen. From then on, Alex's life became routine. He went to school alone, bought groceries, and fed his entranced parents with soup. Glattis sat in her room performing rituals, her health shifting between weak and strong. One night, she summoned Alex to her side. She told him she was sick again and needed his help. The way to cure her was simple. He had to bring her something personal from each of his classmates. Believing this would save his parents and make her leave, Alex obeyed. At school, while the children were in gym class, he stole the name tags from their cubbies. Justine caught him sneaking back, but he brushed off her concern. Later, he delivered the items to Glattis. That night, she performed her ritual. She broke the name tags into a bowl, spat on them, struck a match, and rang her bell. At exactly 2:17 a.m., 17 children woke from their beds, stretched out their arms, and walked into the night, heading directly for Alex's house. The tragedy had begun. When the investigation started, Glattis disguised the truth. She put makeup on Alex's father, claiming to police that he had suffered a stroke and could not speak. She told them she was caring for the family. Meanwhile, Alex was forced to clean the house, remove the newspaper from the windows, and pretend everything was normal. Glattis hid the missing children in the woods whenever police came by. Once the house was clear, she brought them back into the basement. Alex's role grew heavier. He had to feed not only his parents, but also his classmates, who stood silently under Glattis's spell. Days later, Alex returned home to find more strangers trapped. Paul and James now stood inside the house, their eyes blank, enslaved by Glattis's rituals. Terrified, Alex tried to avoid them and ran to his room. Glattis told him not to cross the salt line she had drawn across the floors, warning that his parents would stop him. That night, Justine and Archer arrived outside the Lilly home. From a window, Alex watched them park. Moments later, Paul walked out of the house and gestured for Justine to come inside. Trusting him, she stepped over the threshold. At that instant, the salt line was broken. Paul and James attacked like puppets, throwing themselves at Justine and Archer with unnatural strength. Justine fled through the kitchen, grabbing a pan and striking Paul. It had no effect. He leapt at her again until she slashed his face with a peeler. Black liquid spilled from a wound, but he did not stop. Meanwhile, Archer wrestled with James. He shoved him into the basement door, exposing the children standing motionless below. Archer searched desperately among them for his missing son. In the chaos, Justine seized Paul's gun. She shot him in the neck, but he kept coming, choking her against the table. She fired again, this time into his head. Paul finally collapsed, the black liquid pouring from the wound. But the danger was far from over. Upstairs, Alex tried to escape. Crossing the salt line, he triggered his parents into motion. They chased him through the house, breaking down doors as he fled from room to room. He slipped into the bathroom and then into Glattis's quarters, grabbing one of the branches from her strange tree. In desperation, he cut his hand and smeared blood across the wood. Meanwhile, downstairs, James overpowered Archer again. Though Archer struck him repeatedly, James rose each time, his body refusing to stay down. The fight tumbled into the basement, where the missing children stood in silence. Glattis appeared, watching coldly as Archer struggled. She ripped a necklace from him and performed a ritual, forcing Archer to turn on Justine. He seized her by the throat and pinned her against the wall, his strength no longer his own. Justine gasped for air, fighting to break free. At that moment, Alex completed his own ritual. He tied a strand of Justine's hair to the bloodied branch and snapped it in two. The children in the basement immediately stirred, their eyes focused on Glattis. Without a word, they rushed her. Glattis fled from the house, but the children pursued. Through yards and fences, across neighbors' lawns. They tore through glass doors and windows, driven only by the spell's release. Neighbors watched in horror as dozens of children chased the red-haired woman down the street. Finally, one girl tackled her to the ground. The rest swarmed, pulling her down beneath a mass of arms and hands. Glattis screamed, but the children ripped her body apart until nothing remained. With her death, the curse ended. Inside the house, Alex's parents collapsed, finally freed from her control. Archer released Justine from his grip, the trance broken. Upstairs, Alex clung to his parents, who wept as if waking from a nightmare, but their minds were damaged beyond repair. Archer staggered outside, following the trail of destruction through the neighborhood until he found his own son, Matthew, alive among the other children. He embraced him, sobbing with relief. Soon, authorities and families flooded the area. The missing children were returned to their homes, though many remained silent, traumatized by their ordeal. Some would not speak for months. Alex's parents were institutionalized for treatment. Alex himself was placed in the care of another relative, away from the home where everything had begun. Justine was cleared of suspicion. Archer no longer blamed her, though the truth about Glattis could never be fully explained to the public. Those who had seen her power knew the horror was real. The town of Maybrook slowly returned to its routine, but the scars of that night remained. Every parent, every teacher, and every child who had lived through it carried the memory of the disappearances, the terror, and the shadow of the witch who had once lived among them. The mystery of 217 was finally over.